What happened?
Well, many moons ago, when I was first starting on business, first couple of years, it was a hot summer in probably July. I want to say mid '90s. We had a crew of college kids working with us for the summer. You know, as I was just starting out, had an old beat up van. I know a lot of us in the industry probably had a similar type of Mr. Machine, Scooby Doo kind of thing going on. And I had walked around the job site to do a walkthrough with one of my lead guys. Everything seemed cool. Client was happy. I was in good spirits, pumped up, went to the van, and I saw one of my guys on the front steps just waving to me, smiling and saying goodbye, I thought. And I was like, oh, man, look, he's in a good mood today. This is a guy that you never know what day you're going to catch him on. So I just smiled back and waving. I'm like, this is great. Customer's happy. Job site manager's jacked up. This guy's waving to me, saying, have a good day. Now, we were working in Providence, Rhode Island at the time, which is an urban community. There's billions of people everywhere, you know, and all our jobs in that day happened to be in the city. So I'm going from place to place. Everybody, I couldn't get over it. Everybody's so happy that day. I mean, they were just like smiling and waving as I'm driving down the street. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful, you know? So I just smile and wave, and I'm just driving. And after a little while, I got to one of my stops, and I get out the truck, and my nickname, a lot of the guys at the time called me Lop. Short for Lopatosky, obviously. So my job site manager starts laughing when he sees me pull up. I jump out the truck, and I'm like, why are you laughing? He's just like, Lop, I love you too, man. And I look to the side of my van, and we were painting the house pink, the house that I mentioned at the beginning of the stop where this whole situation started. And we were rolling up because there's old asbestos tile, and we were just rolling the coat on. And I guess one of the guys thought it'd be a good idea to transfer rolling the asbestos tile to rolling some verbiage on the side of my van, which in big 9-inch roller covered pink lettering said, I love men. So I was literally driving around Providence. Everybody's waving at me. I'm sure they love me too, but they're just, I love men everywhere. Big pink letters on my van. And sure won't forget that anytime soon. Stay with me all these years.
Stories from the trenches. That's awesome.
Love it.
Well, before we get any further, today's guest is from, as you're Providence, Rhode Island, owns and operates Lapco Contracting. Tom Lopatosky, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So before you were rolling around Providence, waving at everybody with the Scooby-Doo Shaggy band that says "I love pink," how did you get started in this crazy business? Can you take us all the way back to the beginning, please?
Sure. Yeah. Well, like many of us that get into the business, we start out in college, and I grew up in Providence, and I'd never seen a paintbrush in my life before I got into school. School being college. And when I was there, I had the opportunity to run one of these student painting franchises that we're all very, very, very familiar with. I grabbed the opportunity. I was 18 years old, had to find a way to pay for school. I didn't really have a bunch of scholarships or people that kind of helped me out. And if I wanted to do it, I kind of had to figure a way on my own, and looked like an opportunity to make some money. So I threw my ring in the hat. And after a series of interviews and one general manager passing my files to the next one saying, good luck with this guy. They really weren't going to hire me, but as an 18-year-old kid, they figured they could take a shot on because they probably had to fill some type of quota. And what's the worst that could happen? So they gave me the opportunity. And there was a number of times when I was falling all over myself that first year. And obviously, we still do today, you know, right? And it never stops. You always constantly falling and learning. But that was an interesting way to break into the business. And it's something as hard as it was, it kind of like gravitated me to it. So I did it again, and then I did it again. And each year I kind of got a little bit more confident in it.
You mean every summer? Every summer,
yeah. Every summer I re-upped, and they were gracious enough to give me the opportunity to do it. I was able to, after like a year, first year, we ended up winning Quality Outfit of the Year at the national conference. The next year, which was a big deal to me because I thought if I could take care of the clients and do good quality, that the rest would take care of itself. Next year, we ended up running a top 5 franchise in the country, and kind of the rest is history after that until the point where you get out of school. You got to get out of school, and you got to make that big decision. Am I going to go work for somebody else, or am I going to go try and do this on my own, or what am I going to do here? So I decided to try to do it on my own without the umbrella of the franchise. And I guess the rest is history, as you say. You know, we started growing over the years, diversified a lot of the stuff that what we do. And, you know, we're kind of grew to the place we're at today.
What did you go to school for?
I double majored in marketing and finance, and I minored in computer information systems.
Nice. Okay. So how much of that was applicable?
Zero. I mean,
okay. Well, I didn't mean to lead you there, but I was hoping that we could get something out of marketing and finance. But,
well, I mean,
but there's an important lesson there because you pulled away with some expenses, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing when it comes to school. It's tough because everybody's conditioned. You have to go to school. You have to go to school. Yeah. Did I go to school? Yes. I was on the 6-year plan. I graduated with a double major and a minor. In the grand scheme of things, many years looking back on it, I could say it was great for putting a bunch of foundational purposes in place. It was very interesting. I learned a heck of a lot in both of those arenas. But I learned a lot more kind of just getting out there, running my business on my own in terms of what I do today than anybody would have ever been able to teach me in school, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So you graduate and you decide to go for it. You launch your own company at that point?
Yep. And the franchise that I was working with was very good to me because typically a lot of these franchises, they have like no compete clauses inside their contracts. But I worked out a deal with them. I mean, it was funny. I was always cutting deals. Like stuff that was unheard of. Like I was having them give me like signing bonuses. They like come back on and re-up. Like nobody ever does that. And then the last time that I was in a franchise, I got them to agree that I could transition out of the franchise and run the franchise at the same time as trying to run my own stuff. And they were entirely okay with it. We had it all in writing and everything like that. It was crazy, wow. But yeah, no, they're pretty good to me. So that's how I was able to do it. I ran yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep.
No, so I think there's a really important lesson here. I want to pause and capture and grab this nugget. So how did that happen? So how did you get them to agree to all these things, right? Because most people, I think average would not go for it, would not ask, because the story we have is there's no way they're going to let that go through, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting question because, like, if you go back to the very beginning, they want nothing to do with me. I was like this 18-year-old kid from the city who never saw a paintbrush before. That they really had to take a gamble on to see if I would even work. And like literally, I had a Monday call every Monday, and with our general manager, and that one Monday I called up. The guy was ready to fire me. He's ready to let me go because my sales numbers weren't where they should have been. And before I got it, his name was Scott. He got on the phone. I said, Scott, before you say anything, I said, I just want to let you know I booked, I don't know, it was like 3 triple deckers, like 3-story homes, like over the weekend. So at the time it was probably like 30 grand of business or something like over the weekend. He's just like, there's like a long pause because like, dude, I was getting ready to like fire you like right now. So you go from that to the point where, you start to perform in the field and taking ethics, assuming that you're ethically doing it correctly. Yeah. At the end of the day, the only thing that people care about is results. You know what I mean? Like from a client standpoint, as long as you're doing it ethically, all they care about is they want a good paint job that you're going to guarantee. From the franchise standpoint, as long as I was doing things right in the field, the only thing they cared about was were my numbers there, And if I was doing both ends, I was delivering numbers, the clients were happy. We were killing it in the field. We were doing very, very well, to the point that they were hurting in a lot of areas because of some underperforming franchisees on the quality standpoint. So what they did was they actually hired me in conjunction with running a franchise to go around New England and address all the worst disasters in terms of customer service situations, So I'm talking about kids like, you'd have a client that like an encyclopedia list of like reasons why they hated this particular company because of whatever the crew did to their house or the property. And do you ever see Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Do you know Harvey Keitel's character, the wolf?
Yeah. You're the wolf.
I was the wolf. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Got it. So you drive a Porsche really, really fast too?
Yeah, that looked like the Scooby-Doo van with ladder racks on it. So whenever they had this problem where people were on the verge of suing them or going to the news or something, they'd call him the wolf. I'd get the call and I'd go out there and everything would be good. So the way that you are able to put yourself in position to negotiate stuff that nobody would thought would be negotiable, would be to deliver on everything beyond their expectations, number one. Number two, kind of be their knight in shining armor in terms of if they ever had a service issue or anything like that. And I felt really, you got to kind of stack the deck. In other words, you got to kind of put the chips so far in your corner that when you ask for something, it's almost like they don't have a choice but to kind of work out something with you, you know?
Where did this mindset come from, exceeding expectations, providing the customer a great experience? This is not natural. This is something that takes most guys a long time to learn and to get. It's not, you know, to move from transactional to customer experience.
Yeah, I think early on, I was a beer vendor we had a civic center. A lot of places have these arenas. At the time, it was a Providence Civic Center. We had shows come in. We had hockey, basketball, everything. I was a beer vendor there. And I'd run up and down the aisles selling beer, trying to sell more than the next vendor. And I can kind of go back to that point, just knowing that if I wanted to sell more beer than everybody else, get more tips. I'm kind of highly competitive guy to begin with. I had to do something that would kind of be above and beyond what everybody else was doing. One of the things I did at the time was I had a pager, and it was a pager where you could put numbers in. You couldn't really leave a voicemail message. We were still at that stage of technology.
I remember. Oh yeah.
So I had business cards made up that, you know, so for the fastest beer service in the arena, dial this phone number and punch your section number in, you know?
That's
so
brilliant.
I'd have clients, I call them clients, but people that would want beer, section 123. I'd look at my pager, it'd be section 123. So I'd run there as fast as I could, and I'd get on my clients the beer. And, you know, what that does is two things, obviously. One, it's an awesome from a service standpoint, because when I order the beer, they just page me. Boom, I know where they're at. I go there, but they get a kick out of it so much because of the fact that, you know, I'm doing it, that, you know, the
other guys will be walking by, they'll ignore them and just you.
But it goes back to this concept. Remember, you had recommended a book to me a while back, the Influence book. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of the book, it talks about social proof. Mm-hmm. So in other words, when other people around in the section, remember, there's thousands of people in the arena, saw that I would be summoned by this pager to this section, they would get a kick out of it. They want some of that too. So all of a sudden, everybody's paging me from this thing, and it's kind of like, if you do something like that, it kind of stands out, and people kind of gravitate towards that, and you're able to kind of put yourself to ask for certain things that you might not get otherwise, whether it's with a client, with a business you're working with, etc. Seth Godin, I'm sure you're a big fan, came out with the book Purple Cow. Did you ever read that? Okay. So yeah, obviously you're familiar with the concept. You got to be the purple cow, you know, and at that arena, I was the purple cow, obviously, and that's something I tried to be. You know, certainly, obviously, with the stories, even if I wasn't doing it as intentionally, but like you said, maybe it's just something wired within me that I was trying to be that purple cow, and I still try to do that to this day.
Awesome. So 2 notable books here, just for clarification for our listeners, or those watching us on YouTube. Purple Cow by Seth Godin, and then the other book, Influence, is by Robert Cialdini.
Correct.
Is that one of the best books, like foundational books in sales?
It's unbelievable, you know. And I'm one of these guys that when I read something, I really got to kind of you know, hone in on it. I'm not a speed reader by any means. I really got to read slow and kind of get into what I'm reading. So obviously, it's a big book. But it's so valuable, like you said. There's so much good stuff in there.
It's all meat, right? It's all meat. So
all meat, cover to cover. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's beautiful. I love this. Okay, so you make yourself so valuable. You are the purple cow back to the franchises, and you're so much the purple cow. You're the wolf, and so you're going around putting out all these fires, and then what? So then at that point, I guess you're able to negotiate what you want to keep moving forward, because you're the only one putting out all these fires for them, which are the biggest issues. And so that gives you negotiating room.
Yeah.
I don't want to say power, just room, right? Because you weren't strong arming, and you're just saying, hey, look, I'm doing this. How about that? And so you work out some agreements. How did that go?
Well, I approached the VP, and they asked me if I could come back. And I said, I don't know if I really wanted to. I'm having
Pardon me. This is after how many years?
probably several, probably like 3 or 4.
Okay.
3 or 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm having some ideas about doing some other things. Don't know if I want to do it. I mean, if I had to do it, it had to kind of be worth my while. And he kept blowing me up deals like, how about if you do this? How about you do this? And then they just wanted me back because I think number one, they kind of had to shore up the territory a little bit because they needed somebody that they could count on in a big metropolitan area, and they knew I had a proven track record, and they knew I was on the fence, so they were trying to just see what would it take for me to sign on. And part of it was they know they needed me because like if there's ever a service issue anywhere, they could call me if it was in Maine and just send me up there, and I'd make sure it got done. So I just got. I just thought about it one day. I was like, what would it take for me to come back that they may actually bite? I was like, come here, check for $5,000. I'll do it, But so like literally like everything that they said plus $5,000 and I'll do it. And then at first they were, I was probably like, probably early 20s, 21, 22 or something like that.
$5,000 is a nice clip.
Oh, it's nice. And this is the mid 90s. It's not like today. I mean, $5,000 is still a good clip today. Remember, this is like $5,000.
In the 90s, that's $5,000 was $1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. That was a lot of money, Yeah. So they thought about it. I don't even know how long it took them to do it, but they said, okay, cool. And they did it. And then similarly, I was really thinking about running my own shop, and I approached them on it, and I was just like, I mean, I kind of want to ease out of this thing, but I want to have something solid just in case like my own thing doesn't work out. Would you guys be open to me running a franchise? And I think I guaranteed them I would do X amount of sales volume. If I could do this, would you be cool if I did this on my own? And they were on board. They were, I think they were confident because I delivered every time I'd signed up for agreement prior to them. So they were totally cool with it.
Delivered every time.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that a little bit. Delivered every time. What's that mindset look like? How does somebody get to where they deliver every time?
I think
that's not common. You'd agree, right?
Yeah, it's very not common. No, okay. I mean, it's I don't know. I think it's, there's definitely a psychological component to it. It must go back like way, way back. I think I was always kind of edgy, nervous, however you want to say, about not living up to somebody's expectation from a very young age. Mm-hmm. That may be something like I was always worried about disappointing my parents, and just knowing that if I could do what they asked me to do, that everything would be cool. So you got somebody in a position of authority asking me to do whatever it happens to be. If I could do that and then some, I know I'll be on their good side, So even today, if somebody asks me to do something, I try as much as I can that and then some. If you do that, you're delivering what they're asking you to, and then a little bit more. That kind of stays with you, and people remember that. So I think that's probably where it stems from. Just a pure worry of disappointing somebody,
Yep. Which leads pros and cons, right? I've talked to some others, and I completely relate. I see it, and that's why I ask. So the burning desire not to disappoint somebody ultimately leads to remarkable service, remarkable customer experience, right? Or sure. hitting those goals for the franchise.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Awesome. So you hit the numbers. They let you. They agree to let you start your own gig company.
Yep. In conjunction at the same time running their thing. Yep.
How does that happen? It's tough to focus on too, no?
It's very tough. There's an old Chinese proverb that says if you try to catch 2 rabbits, you're never going to catch either one, I think it's the way that you position it in your head. Because I totally agree with that. If you're trying to catch 2 rabbits, you're not going to catch either one. But in your mind, if you can kind of get past the position, okay, which rabbit are you going to get after, For me, it was running my own business, but I knew that in order to catch that rabbit, I had to catch the other one first, kind of, So the way that I did it was I totally did everything I always did with the franchise side, but then I started dabbling a little bit on my own. In the first year of business on my own, I didn't do anything groundbreaking. I did maybe it was less than $100,000 worth of business, but the point is I was on my own, and I had like a little bit of a foundation in place to the point that I felt comfortable launching the next year, kind of more of a full throttle, so to speak. You know, same thing. Could be taken in like all our lives with every single aspect of it, whether it's business, whether it's family. I mean, I was listening to Tony Robbins, like an old interview from him, and then at the time, this is yesterday, he had mentioned he was running 31 companies and he had this going on and that going on. And I don't think Tony's necessarily chasing 31 rabbits. I think like in his head, he kind of knows what's what, and each one of those kind of leading to his, whatever his ultimate goal happens to be. I mean, he may be running 50 companies now, who knows, you know, but it's just positioning that in your mind. Mindset has like everything to do with everything. It really does.
Hey, amen. You nailed it. It's all about mindset, which circles back to our self-talk, right? So, and then our programming or reprogramming.
Yeah.
How much have you found that you've had to do a lot of reprogramming to grow the business? Did you have to grow yourself personally? Did you have to? I did, right? Yeah. Rewrite a lot of the programs, the self-talk, the beliefs, the mindsets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're all, particularly, you know, if you're able to get to the point where you're achieving a lot of stuff, whether you know it or not know, you could constantly reprogramming yourself. You know, I mean, what would have happened if, you know, Apple just stuck with the first like iPhone? You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, they're constantly reprogramming. How can we make this better? How can we make this better? How do we do this? How do we do that? I mean, or if they just stuck with the Mac, you know what I mean? Like if they just stuck with one. I mean, you constantly reprogramming yourself. Like every day. I mean, whether you know it or not, you're reprogramming yourself. I would think. I know. I was saying you, Steve. You know, I know you are. You know, I could tell. You know, same with me. I'm constantly, like every day I'm constantly thinking, what can we do better? And obviously, a lot of it's the compound effect, the old Darren Hardy book. You know, throw that out. A bunch of incremental improvements. It may be something small every day, but they're going to add up to something big, negative or positive in the long run. You know? Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, Tony, you mentioned Tony Robbins. He coined the term CANI, C-A-N-I, constant and never-ending improvement.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. If you're going, even if it's just a little bit every day, you're improving yourself. That's going to compound, and you're going to look before you know it. You're going to be at such and such a place. How to get here? Well, you got there by doing a little bit of this, 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 and before you know it, boom.
Yeah. Can I? So you get your company going. At that time, were you watching videos, reading books? Have you dove into personal and business development at that point yet? Not
at all. I was just kind of delving into rolling up my sleeves and jumping in and trying to figure everything out. I really I didn't really think about reading books, as crazy as that sounds. Video wasn't really, this is, again, mid-90s VHS tapes.
Yeah, this is pre-YouTube. I remember Google Video even before YouTube, and this is before Google Video, so we're dating ourselves.
Put it this way, the internet was barely functional at that time.
That's true. It was dial-up in 95, right? I remember AOL.
It was like barely there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, back then, you know, I had a pager and a fax machine. I thought it was pretty hot stuff, you know. I mean, now, look what we're doing today.
You know, that's true. I think the only books out was probably like Stephen Covey and Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, I was just going to say, both tremendous, but I didn't end up reading those till like years down the
line. Me too.
I want to say I didn't start reading books for personal development probably until the last like 5 to 10 years, you know. Okay. And every year, that one given year, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to keep track of every single book I read. And you know, maybe some years I only read 5, some years I may read 10, you know, but whatever it is, I try to read a little bit every day. And then I compile the list, and at the end of the year, I just throw it up on Facebook. Hey, this is the book I've read this year. And I also have the books from the preceding years, just in case anybody out there might be looking for, you know, what I happen to be reading, you know, in terms of that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. Back to launching the business. So you launched the business. How did you generate your leads back in, what is this, 90?
Well, probably like the franchise type of thing, or like my own business.
Yours, when you launched yours, as you're starting to break away from the franchise.
Well, going back, you make me delve deep into my memory. I think I fiddle battle with a lot of stuff. Some productive, some not, just as we even do to this day. I did one massive mailing once that I thought was going to be wickedly productive. There's like a $7,000 mailing, which was a huge investment for me. I think I got like one lead.
Yeah.
That led it to like some business. Obviously, some lesson learned there, and stuff that I've grown to kind of know more about as I've gotten more experienced.
Yeah.
But some stuff that did work back then for us, to a degree. I was a hustler, the first year I was running a franchise, I used to generate one cold call lead per hour, when I went to cold call. And there was one time I cold called for 40 hours, and I got one power washing job out of it, I want to say. Out of the entire time. And I was like, man, cold calling is for the birds, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I tried to start thinking about other ways. I advertised in the Yellow Pages, which was kind of for the birds too. But at the time, I didn't mind because I didn't have there wasn't really too many other ways to kind of really do things outside of your guerrilla marketing tactics, like throwing up signs and door hangers and things of that nature. I advertised in the Yellow Pages, and I know the numbers were the numbers because of where I was at. I knew that only 10% of the leads that came in, I was going to translate into work. So it was a grind for a little bit with the Yellow. Like every time you see a Yellow Page come in, it was a lead, but it wasn't like something that was really groundbreaking for me. I'll tell you what really took my business off, which was an amazing point in time. I always gauge it off the birth of my daughter, Tamara. She is born 13 years ago. So a little bit before she was born, within a year before that, I started advertising on the radio. And I did it with live radio personalities. They do these live reads on the air where they get on the airwaves, and it has to be a specific audience for me. It was a talk radio where they get on the microphone. They basically talk about politics and news and the issues of the day locally in Rhode Island. So there was one particular host I reached out to who was the most popular host. And I really forget how I connected, other than the radio rep that had been calling on me for a while, connected me with him. And I did some work for him. And then all of a sudden he started getting on the radio every day, telling everybody how great we were, and it was a little bit of an investment, but it took off like wildfire, and we've been on, we mentioned the compound effect, right?
Oh yeah.
So we've been on with the host pretty much every day for the last 14 years, like we're still with him to this day. Not only him, but we're on with another personality too. So you can imagine how that translates, assuming that you're doing the other things that you learn how to do over a period of time. So you got this good base that really hit our target audience right on the head. You have them being reinforced every day because this listening audience is very loyal. They come back and they listen to this guy every day. So every day for 14 years, they've heard him talk about me. Then once they become clients, you kind of nurture them, obviously. They get a newsletter once a month. It's like a big postcard newsletter that we send out, just saying, hey, how you doing? And just like a really fun kind of thing, not really salesy, but just kind of staying in the face. We try to send out, we've been pretty good with it recently, e-newsletter once a week, just on a home improvement tip or whatever we may want to talk about that week. We have a number of other things we do too, but over time, the marketing machine has certainly shored itself up.
Let's kind of cue everybody up. What does the business look like today then? Because you mentioned newsletters already, so you brought us up today. You guys are in the field. What are your projected revenues at the end of this year?
This year, we have a couple $1 million, in terms of top line. We've diversified an awful lot. We've known how to do that. A lot of it has been networking. That's another thing that was huge with us too. I mean, there's two things that really kind of shotgun our business into the stratosphere. It would be the radio stuff we did, and it'd be networking. In particular with us, there's a group that meets out there. It's called BNI. It's a Business Networking International. We found a good group. It was the right fit, and it was just like, boom. It just it was like the radio was the gasoline, the BNI was the match, and when they got together, boom, And I've kind of developed a system over a period of time to deal with open networking events, like your Chamber of Commerce events, your events that aren't structured. Because BNI, if you find the right group, it works like better than anything else from a networking standpoint, in my opinion, because it's so structured. Because if you follow their system, you will get business out of it, assuming you're in the right group with the right personalities, etc. best thing out of the networking sun, as far as I'm concerned. That's a structured networking kind of thing. And then you got unstructured networking, which is, like I said, Chamber of Commerce, like big open networking events that can be productive, I think, if you have the right system to kind of penetrate them and get in with them and allow you to realize some fruits from there. But you really have to have a system in place. Other than that, you're just going there like schmoozing and handing out business cards and nothing's coming out of it.
Absolutely. So I had a system, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was Hulk Hogan or singing Sinatra or jumping off the tables, right?
Yeah.
But we'd like to hear yours. What's your system for open networking?
Well, mine was pretty much low key. It was kind of based on the compound effect a little bit. So if you look at it, I'll give you if anybody's gone to like after hours for a Chamber of Commerce event, I'll give you the scene real quick. If you can visualize, like I was a young kid, 20s, maybe they have this one time a year event. It's called the Statewide Business After Hours, where they have all the chambers of commerce from the entire state of Rhode Island. Rhode Island's a huge state, you know. It thinks it is. We have 39 cities and towns. We really should have one big city state, but that's a whole other discussion. But believe it or not, in Rhode Island, teeny tiny Rhode Island, there's 12 chambers of commerce. You know? Wow. It's crazy as hell. Once a year, they get together and they have the statewide business after hours. So the statewide business after hours is in this big like event facility, and they all meet. I went there because I heard it was a great event. I walked in there this one particular year. I saw 1,000 people, didn't know anybody, and totally walked in one door and out the other with my tail behind my legs because I felt like I was in over my head. I had no idea where to start. Yeah. So I thought about things for a bit, and you know, how do you eat an elephant? You heard about this like a million times, one bite at a time, right? So that's the mentality I took. So I started going to these networking events, and I developed a system. Basically, my idea is I want to meet one person, and it doesn't matter who that person is to me. It could be like a $1 billion business owner, or it could be you know, a guy that just happened to walk in off the street at the networking event is eating donuts or whatever in the corner. Yeah. There's a concept out there that I came across years ago. It's every dud knows a stud. Did you ever hear that?
Sorry?
Every dud knows a stud?
No.
Okay. So like you could go into a room and you might see somebody that's just hanging out on the wall. He may be the most non-impressive person on the planet, but a contact one step removed from him could own like Microsoft or something, you know what I mean? Like you just never know who you're talking to, you know? I love that. That's why you can't discriminate. You never know who knows whatever. You can't go off looks, you can't go off anything like that. You know, you got to put your biases to the side and just kind of meet people. So I go to the open networking event. I meet one person, get their contact information. My goal is just meet one person. You know, I'm not there to spread my business cards over. Just meet one person. So I meet one person, follow up with them the next day, or even if I grant a handful of clients, a handful of cards, I should say. My intent is to get at least one solid contact out of there. A solid contact may not amount to business right away, may not amount to business. I had somebody reach out to me within the last month that had met me at a networking event 10 years ago, you know, but that's just remembered me from the system and just wanted to kind of work with me all of a sudden. So basically the system is you meet the person, you follow up with them the next day, you ask them if you can have a cup of coffee with them just to find out a little bit more about the business, who they are, what they do. Most people love the opportunity to talk about themselves. So you invite them out to coffee, have a coffee with them. And I had heard of this concept way back when called FORD. Have you ever heard that concept? FORD?
What? FORD? No.
Yeah. Okay. So it's an acronym. It stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. So basically, invite them out to coffee. I don't really, most of the time, I won't tell them anything about myself because they won't come up in conversation. But I'll have a casual conversation with them and draw stuff about their family out, stuff about, you know, their occupation, what they do, what they like to do in terms of recreation, their dreams, what they really want to see themselves. So if you can get people over a course of an hour period, over a cup of coffee, to tell you all that type of stuff, you'll make them feel like a superstar, you know, like the most important people on the planet. Because a lot of times during the course of a busy day, nobody takes the time to have those types of conversations with people. So that automatically they remember you because you made them feel. If you asked me after I came out of a meeting with them to tell me one thing about me, they probably have no clue. They're like, oh, he's a nice guy. No,
awesome. They're going to say, I don't know, but he's a great guy.
Exactly. Yeah, he's awesome, right? So anyways, so we forward them, you have that conversation, then I'll send them a written thank you note afterwards, you know, and I'll mail it, you know, like a regular mail kind of thing. And then from there, I'll put them in the the newsletter database, so they start getting our monthly newsletter. They may probably get the weekly e-newsletter as well too, and so all of a sudden they're getting drip over a period of time. Compound effect happens over time. And then the next week there's another open networking event. Do it again. Find one person. So I'm not doing anything monumentally groundbreaking here, but you think about it. If you're doing that once a week, 52 times a year, that's 52 people you don't know. Now, if you do that over 10 years, it's 520 people right there that are getting your newsletter every day. Getting the newsletter once a month, getting the e-newsletter once a week, and so on and so forth. I mean, you could take it from there, I'm sure. You kind of can imagine what that does. Yeah.
Huge. It's huge. So this is brilliant. Spot on. Now, I have a similar system, aside from, the open networking and jumping up and entertaining everybody with these wild, crazy antics. But the one-to-one networking, you're spot on. And I learned this from Bob Berg's book. It's very similar to what you just shared. His book, Endless Referrals, is before he started writing the Go Givers series.
Yeah.
And somebody had shared this with me at a Toastmasters event. So I grabbed the book, read it, and I hated networking events because naturally I'm an introvert. Yeah. And so I go to a networking event and I hated talking about myself. And so this plays to the opportunity where, they thought you're a great guy. And what I want to do is magnify the nugget here. They think you're a great guy because you didn't talk about how great you are and how amazing you are and how well in business you're doing. They think you're a great guy or person because you were interested in them, right?
Yeah.
You kept asking them questions about themselves, and that's the key. This is, if there's a secret, right? This is the key. You ask them. You just be incredibly interested about them. You followed up with a note card.
Yeah.
And then you just kept doing this and kept doing this and kept doing this. And so another point might be you're not going to see any fruit from this for like a few months, right?
Oh, yeah. F that. Absolutely. And you got to go at it with that mindset. You might have to understand that. You're not going to see something, more than likely, you're not going to see something right away. It's going to take some time. But you will see stuff, trust me. And one important part, going back to what you just said, did you ever see the movie The Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes.
Jordan Belfort. Okay, so I read.
I had to walk out. It was.
No, I understand that, but there's a lesson here. Jordan Belfort, aside from as crazy a movie as that was, he had developed a sales training thing over a period of time. And if you go look it up on YouTube, it's called the straight line selling method. And basically, it's kind of like, in a nutshell, it's wicked long. It's like 10 hours, but you have your goal, whatever your goal is. You know what I mean? In sales, it's obviously you want to convert somebody to a client. So this straight line here, from the point where they become a prospect to the point where you actually make a sale, should be a straight line. It should be like from here to here. The quickest way is from A to B to get someplace, right? Mm-hmm. So networking is the same way. You get the straight line thing within this one-on-one conversation with somebody. You're trying to get that person to empty out their soul to you in terms of like who they are or the family, occupation, recreation, dreams. There's going to be a lot of times in that conversation where they may try to redirect it towards a little bit of something about you, but you got to kind of tactfully keep them back towards the line, get them back on the line, because they're going to wander off. And trust me, if somebody want to ask me about something about myself, I love to talk about myself. I'll talk about myself all day, but I got to discipline myself to stay on the line, because if I'm off the line, then the conversation is going in so many tangential directions, you're never going to get out of it what your intent is. Your intent is to find out everything you can about this person. That's your goal. So if they start wandering off trying to talk to you about stuff, cool, be tactful in the way you do it, but get them back to the line towards talking about themselves. You want to get them to talk about themselves as much as possible within that hour.
Such a great point. And just in case those who are watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, and you've wandered off, I want to bring you back to hear Tommy's point. When they ask you about yourself, our dopamine starts to drip and go, woo.
Oh, yeah.
Discipline yourself, politely answer the question, and then politely, carefully segue back to them.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a discipline. Takes practice. Okay. I just want to make sure we draw that out, because that's big.
Yeah, can't miss that. That's the point. You got to keep them focused on themselves somehow, but you got to do it in a way that doesn't insult them, or it doesn't seem like you're trying to be curt with them or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. But it takes practice, just like everything else. And I think everything we're sharing with, it's going to be a great big promotion for Darren Hardy. The compound effect comes into play. Right?
It's true. Yeah. I mean, this particular conversation is just kind of how it's going. But I mean, a lot of it, it's very true if you think about it. Really. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So the radio, the networking, what's big for you today? Are you still doing radio?
Still doing a lot of radio, still with that same host from 14 years ago. That's, believe it or not, our biggest source of new clients is the radio. We it's a lot easier, as you know, to get more business out of an existing client that you already have a good relationship with than trying to find new ones. So we're very big in terms of cultivating items with our existing clients. We've fiddle-faddled, I mentioned diversification over the years with doing things that aren't really painting related, but if we could find like a quality contractor that can do an ancillary kind of business, we'll bring that guy on board, use him as like a sub, and we'll promote the fact that we're doing this. Like in Rhode Island, I know it's different than Florida. In Florida, everything's built on a slab down there, right? You don't really have basements. In Rhode Island, we have basements, you know, and one of the ways that you access basements is through this thing called a bulkhead. It's a steel bulkhead. These things rot out over a period of time, rough winters, you know, rain, everything. And they need to be replaced. There's not too many people that replace these steel bulkheads. So we developed, like, as just one example, like a little niche in terms of replacing these steel bulkheads. Now, I don't know anything about steel bulkhead replacement. I know how to paint them, you know, but I don't know how to like replace them. But I have a guy that I know his pricing schedule. So we've been able to kind of market that as a different type of thing of what we do. And we've done a bit of business from that. You know, again, if you can diversify your product line in terms of what you do, I'm not saying, and it's not for everybody. And I'm saying it's not just what we do. Like, in other words, we might not be the ones doing it, but if you can kind of, as a business, help your clients out by kind of introducing them to a solution to a problem they have, they're going to pay you to do it if they have that kind of trust in you. So I think that's a big part of growth of a business, is being able to sell them other solutions to pains that they have that they're just driving them nuts. You know, and that's
absolutely.
It's been helpful.
So as you're doing this, and a couple million, can we share how many guys do I have out in the field?
Yeah, as is probably the case with many businesses in regions that are affected by weather. That is a different question for different times of year. At a high point, we probably run close to 30 guys, like when everything's going crazy nuts in the warmer months. Winter, you may carry like 10 guys, you know, to get you through the winter. If you can keep 10 guys busy, you're doing all right. But it can fluctuate anywhere between 10 and 30, depending on what kind of like your workload and what you got going on.
For those struggling to find guys, how do you find 30?
I think the biggest key is you have to be as aggressive going after potential employees as you are going after potential clients. You know, I think that gets lost in the shuffle a lot of times. It should, if you're really set on growth, it should be 50-50. You should be going at them equally as hard. But I hear a lot of guys in the industry, not just our industry, I hear them across the board. It could be in the restaurant industry, could be whatever industry, complaining about that they don't have the help they need, or there's no good people out there. It's just like, okay, well, what are you doing to find them? And they may tell you something that's okay, but it's what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is going at the things the same way. Like they say it's throwing out on Craigslist. Dude, everybody's throwing out on Craigslist. You can't do that, you know? And even if you do, you're going to be different from everybody else that's doing it. You know, one of the things that's, I'll give you one secret on our end. I could certainly send you the copy to this if you're interested. We do long copy help wanted ads. And I kind of tailor them to whatever position that we may be looking for somebody at the time. And when I say long copy, I'm not talking about like, I have 10 paragraphs. I'm talking like, dude, like a long mini series in a newspaper kind of copy. You know, it's like big. And that really stands out. And it's funny because people read it, like, nobody's going to read it. Well, did you read it? Yeah, I read it. I was like, okay.
And that's what skilled copy is all about.
Yeah. So we tailor this copy to whatever position. We put it on Indeed as one example, and we'll sponsor it. So it kind of goes up at the top. And so you got the sponsored long copy ad for this position. You're different than everybody else that's kind of going for that position automatically just because of how long. I mean, and if it's funny because do you ever go to a timeshare presentation?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
one of the,
down here near the mouse. So back in the past we've Mickey Mouse, and so
sure.
in the past we've taken them up for the condo, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And one of the things I'm not sure if they did this on the ones that you went to, but one of the things they did on one of the ones that I went to, and I thought was brilliant, that they showed you what the timeshare looked like. And inside the timeshare in this particular place, it was like a big suite, beautiful. There's like a bedroom with a couple beds in it as one of the rooms off this huge, ginormous timeshare. And it looked just like, and he said, what does this look like to me? You know, and I remember the guy's name was Jimmy Key, because Jimmy Key was a pitcher for the Blue Jays back in the day. And I always remember the sales guy's name, you know. Awesome guy, just like really knew his stuff. I'm sure he's very successful with his business. But he showed me this timeshare, and he says, what does this room look like to you? I was like, looks like a normal hotel room to me. He's like, exactly. He goes, if you come to stay down here, more than likely, you're just staying in this one room. But you buy a timeshare, you don't got just this one room, you got the whole thing. So when you're doing I did my long copy ad, what I did was, you know, it's standard, right? Everybody's looking for the same stuff in the help wanted ads in our industry. Can't do drugs, comparable pay, must have own tools and equipment, whatever they want to phrase. It always says the same stuff. So inside my long copy ad, I kind of made fun of, in a tactful way, the way that you typically see help wanted ads. You know what I mean? It's placed in there just like the timeshare presentation, but everything around it gets dwarfed by the bulk of the long copy around it. And it's just, it seems like it's real different. It seems to work very well for us. And it's been kind of fun to see people's reaction to it every time we put it out there.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Now, the painting business wasn't enough for you.
No.
No. You have to do more. So tell us about that. What else are you involved in?
Well, you mean outside of our particular industry here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got involved with all-star cheerleading, which is a sport that some people know about, some people don't. It's kind of like this underground sport that is entirely insane, but like really doesn't have this mainstream appeal to it like you see football, basketball, or something like that. I got involved with my daughter's gym a while back. It was end up getting to the point where they were doing pretty well, and for business reasons they had to close down. And I know the kids there that if they actually went through the process, they'd end up at like every gym on the planet, scattered from their parents, just trying to keep the kids busy. So I got together with one of the coaches there, and I just thought, you know, to keep the kids together, would you be interested in starting a all-star gym with me? I said, I've run a business for over 20 years. I don't know nothing about cheerleading, but you can handle that stuff. I'll handle the business stuff, and you know, we'll see what happens. She agreed, and kind of the rest is history. And this thing's like insane now. It's crazy. We our program tripled in size from last year to this year. And we have like, it seems like thousands of kids coming through just for like taking classes every week to learn how to flip, to tumble, to do all the crazy stuff you see all these acrobats and the gymnastics world do. We have we train dancers, we train gymnasts. We do a lot within the community with a lot of the high schools and middle schools too. It's just been a really fun kind of outlet. My daughter's been involved here and there too. You know, I mean, she's on a team this year. She's doing pretty well. She can get in there, and everybody seems to be having a blast with it. It's not easy, you know, but it's very, very fun. Yeah.
What's it called?
Cheer Up Athletics.
Cheer Up Athletics.
Okay. Yeah, you can look us up on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. It's pretty cool stuff to watch.
Yeah, we'll link to it in the show notes so I can check
Awesome, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So now the question is, what does your admin look like on the painting side for you to be able to go and launch this other company?
Well, it's not as expansive as you may think it is. Do you know Mike Kelly at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he wrote awesome guy, right? Mm-hmm. He wrote an article in a magazine a number of years ago talking about how he relieved himself of 1 billion degrees of stress by outsourcing his receptionist admin to like another company. Mm-hmm. So I read the article and I reached out to the company that he recommended, and they've been awesome for us. So like all of our phone calls are fielded by this company out of Chicago, which has like these CSRs from all over like the planet. It seems that they sound like they're from like your region. People don't know whether they're talking to somebody wherever or they're talking to somebody in Johnston, Rhode Island. You know?
Right, hold on, I've got. Do they have your accent?
Not entirely, but you can't tell that they're entirely not from here too. You know, because it's a quick conversation. You know what I'm saying? They're just getting me on the phone. Yeah. Put it this way. they're the ones that I've talked to, because I do test calls on occasion just to make sure that they're answering the calls the right way, and just like they're doing what they're supposed to. They don't sound like they're from a faraway land. Like they don't have like big twang in the dialect that you might catch from someplace like in the deep South, or like out the Midwest accent. You know, they don't sound like they don't have a particularly strong New England accent, but they have like, you know, it's a tolerable
so here's
accent.
a pop quiz, right? Do you think Ron Ramsden has an accent?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Okay.
You look it up in the dictionary, like New England dialect, you see Ron's smiling face right next to it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, you know, I was thinking too, your radio ads probably just pop so well because everybody loves your accent. And I want to make a point of this because I know there's some guys, and I talk to them because they're self-conscious of their accent, and I'm saying and I'm saying, no, this is your strength.
Yeah.
Right? This is your strength. I'm from the Midwest, and not much of an accent, right?
Yeah.
But so I really want to make the point that this is a strength. Having an accent is fun. We love an accent, whether it's New England, whether it's English, whether it's Australian, right?
Yeah, you know,
or even Canada. We don't want to leave Canada out, eh?
No, I was going to mention them actually when I was listing them off, but I just didn't get to them. But the more powerful the accent can be actually is places where you're removed from like where you're originally from. So in other words, if you took somebody that had a deep, deep Southern accent and brought them to New England, they would stick, it's a whole purple cow thing again. They'd stick out like a sore thumb. People would gravitate to them. That would be like the kill shot. You know what I'm saying? Like same thing. If you take me and throw me in South Carolina, are you kidding me? People going, who's that guy that sounds like I went to school in South Carolina for a bit. I had kids that used to gravitate to me. They just like want to hear me talk, you know, because it's so different than what they're used to hearing. And if you have an opportunity to be in a situation like that, where you maybe even on the first thought be ultra subconscious because you're so different from everybody, that's going to be a strong point. The more different you can be from people, the better off the easier it's going to be for you to market, believe it or not.
Yes.
That's the way it is, right? Yeah.
Where does your drive come from?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I really enjoy helping people. What drives me is knowing that the more successful I can be in terms of making things happen, the more successful I could be helping people. One of the most moving things I've ever seen ever. Did you ever see the movie Schindler's List?
No, you know, I'm very aware of it, but I never watched it. I thought I have an idea of the story.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a great story. In a nutshell, basically it's this guy that he was involved in everything horrible that went on in the concentration camps back during World War II. And he has this revelation at some point, and he just starts helping as many people as he can kind of get through it. He starts selling. He was like this wicked, powerful guy. His name was Oscar Schindler. Starts selling everything to try to kind of save as many of there's the Jews from the concentration camps as he can. And then he has this big revelation at the end of the movie, basically, where he just starts breaking down and crying because he just thought he could have saved more people. He's like, I could have sold this watch. I could have done this. I could have done that. And it's so powerful, you know. And at the end of the movie, they actually show this was filmed probably in the 90s, I want to say. They showed like the people that he helped save what they were like today. So in other words, those people wouldn't have been saved if he didn't do what he did, you know? So that kind of resonated with me. And I don't know why. It really kind of struck a chord with me. And I'm just like, you know, if I could just do this a little bit more, it'll put me in a position that when somebody needs help, I'll be able to help them. And I don't know why. That's my drive. I just love helping people, you know?
For me, I find that's the ultimate fulfilling success, right? We can keep growing our businesses and we can keep making money, but it's materialistic, right? And it's fleeting. You hit the million, woo, and then it's gone like that, right? Yeah. But when you help somebody.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's maybe one of the things that kind of drives me with the cheerleading thing too. Just a quick story on that. Like yesterday, I had a buddy of mine who's pretty successful now. He went to high school with him and runs this huge car dealership. We have this high school that we help out. There's like 30 kids on there. It's an inner city high school, and a lot of times they go up a competition against all these schools from other communities that have like tons of money. They don't have to worry about sneakers. They don't have to worry about uniforms. these kids, they're going to worry about where the next meals come from. You know what I'm saying? And it's a tough story. So I reached out to my buddy. I'm like, these guys got like a competition in like a week. Is there any way you can figure out how to give me a way to give me three grand so I can get sneakers for these kids? Cause they're like $100 a pop. I got 30 kids. Took me like a week, but he said, yeah, I found the money. So like these kids, like that's 30 kids that probably never going to forget that they got these sneakers. As small as that may seem to like the average person, that's going to be huge, I think, for them, because they come from a place where they may not have been able to do that. Now all of a sudden they got some stuff that is going to put them on par with like a lot of the other teams. You know, just little stuff like that. Just constantly think, how can I help somebody? How can I help somebody? And I know we talked a little bit about Dan Candy here and there in the past, me and you. And one of the things that I've seen him say in the past, and he says he can't put his finger on it. Like he really can't. And he's a guy who, you know, comes across as this really gruff personality. He's like, I can't tell you. I think really underneath he's a big softy, but that's another thing. He said, the more people you can figure out how to help, the more it comes back to you in the end, you know? He said, that's really, I remember him saying this. He said, it's really powerful. I can't tell you why. It's kind of I don't know if it's a law of the universe, way God works or whatever, but it's the more that you could figure out to help people, it's just the more that comes back to you. I can't explain it either. I mean, do you agree? Do you disagree? I mean, what do you think?
I agree 100%. In fact, it's, I mentioned, it's in the Bible. We reap what we sow, right? We reap what we sow. And I believe it's a natural law. And so, well, here's, Zig Ziglar, right? You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want or need.
Perfect. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. 100%. It's crazy. It's just how it works, really.
So the more we focus on others, the better life is.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Now, the reverse of that is those who are out only for themselves struggle their entire life, right? Or maybe they'll see success, but they won't stay there. They will crash hard, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's the other part of the law, right? I mean, it's crazy how that happens too. You know, I mean, if at some point in time it'll come back to you if you don't. You know, I mean, it's just. I mean, both of us could probably come up with tons of examples that would kind of illustrate that. Yeah. But the more you could help others, put the focus on others, the more it's going to help you, and the more you kind of like even something as simple as going on like a date with somebody like for this time. You go on a date with a girl. And you start telling them all about yourself and how wonderful you are. You think you're getting a second date, I mean, it's not going to happen, I mean, the more that you look out for yourself, the more that you talk about yourself, the more that you focus on yourself in general. I mean, there's certain times that, from a marketing standpoint, you got to position yourself a certain way to kind of get things going. But in general, like whatever's true at the heart of it all, you're right. I mean, if you focus on yourself, it's just going to have the reverse impact on you.
Absolutely. And the point of giving, for those who are listening or watching, what are some, and love, constant never-ending improvement, what are some other books, seminars, programs that have inspired you, that have challenged you, that have helped you to make some great big paradigm shifts?
I think the biggest thing for me has been the Dan Candy stuff, and right now it's the No BS. I think they just got bought out recently. Series of books that he has, as well as the organization that they have there. I'm a big marketing guy. I enjoy marketing stuff, and a lot of this stuff just resonates with me. It's just so common sense stuff. He has this product out there called Magnetic Marketing. I'm sure if somebody looked it up, they could find it. It's made a huge impact. In terms of the way that I approach things. I think that's been, I'd say over the last like 10 years, the biggest thing that's kind of helped me out a lot. And then just the basic books from like 100 years ago, like that you mentioned, like the Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Is that the name of the book? Yeah. I almost have to refer to the list, but Covey was great,
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, that's ones you got to hone in on too, because it's a long read, but it's very, very true. It's an awesome book. The Darren Hardy one, obviously, that we mentioned. There's a ton of them that have kind of made a lasting impact on me. I'd say, like, if I had to put one thing, the Dan Candy stuff has just been tremendous for me. Yeah.
Out of his that series you mentioned, the No BS series, is there one or two that stuck out to you?
Marketing. There's one. It was what was the name? There's something like direct marketing for non-direct marketing businesses.
Okay.
That was very, very good. Direct marketing to the wealthy. That was one that was pretty good. I mean, another one that's a newer version of a more modern marketing kind of guy that is the antithesis of Dan would be Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V. It's interesting because he's not too much older than me, but he's been able to do a phenomenal thing over a short period of time. And I really gravitate to a lot of like his stuff. He says a lot of interesting things. Pretty cool guy. It was funny because I'll listen to Dan something he says, and Gary would be saying something pretty opposite what Dan says, but they're both highly successful in terms of what they're doing. So I mean, there's a million ways to do it. It's just you kind of got to listen to like a lot of people that have probably been there and already kind of bit the bullet, so to speak. It just kind of adapt things for yourself and just make it your own. Both fun though, you know. It's I get a kick out of it. You know, Joe Polish. I know you talked a little bit about I Love Marketing, you know, before. A lot of his stuff is all principled after Dan. He's a pretty fun guy to kind of follow too. There's tons of good stuff out there, man. There really is. You know, really.
Just keep pouring it in, right? Just keep pouring it in.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Before we roll out of here, this early Friday morning, first, thank you for getting up so early.
I appreciate it, man. This is fun. Yeah.
Looks like the sun's finally coming up there. Yeah. I think here too. So.
Eventually I'll get there. Maybe it'll warm up to be like 50 today over here. It'll probably be like 80 over there.
Yeah, it cooled down to 75 as I was driving to the office this morning.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable.
But the humidity's finally leaving, so now we get to celebrate.
Nice, yeah.
But before we roll out of here, Tom, is there a question I should have asked, or is there a final point that you would like to make?
I think the biggest thing to really think about is just being able to, if you're sure that whatever business that you're in, whether it's what we do, or somebody may be watching this that does run a restaurant, runs like a flower shop or whatever, is, you know, always keeping as positive attitude as you can about things, and not to give up no matter kind of what happens. We've had some crazy challenges over years, you know, and could be like a whole other podcast, but I woke up before and my bank account had negative $187,000 in it, and it was legit negative $187,000.
Oh, I felt that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been able to kind of like push through that, figure it all out, and come back on the other side of it. But like the key is, if you really believe in something, you got to believe in it and follow it through to the end point.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Tom, again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
It's been awesome, man. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's been fun.
Take care.
All right, you too, Steve. Thank you. Yeah.